Let me ask you something. When was the last time you met someone who didn't exist? Not a hermit in the woods, not someone hiding from the world. I mean a person you see every day, the guy you work with, the girl behind the coffee counter, living a full life, laughing, moving, showing up. But if you type their name online, nothing, no profiles, no photos, no digital trail at all, zero results. It feels strange, doesn't it? In a world where we broadcast everything, every meal, every mood, every breakup, a world that never stops talking, and somehow they chose silence. Most people look at them and assume things. They must be painfully shy, or paranoid, or afraid of being watched. But that's not what it is. Not really. I've started to see it differently. It isn't fear, and it's not boredom. It's awareness. Like they stumbled onto a truth the rest of us are too busy scrolling to notice. They aren't hiding from the spotlight. They've just realized the spotlight today doesn't feel like admiration anymore. It feels like an interrogation lamp. Always on, always judging, always asking for more. They're not afraid of being seen. They're just deeply skeptical of what being seen has become. Think about the last time you witnessed something beautiful. A sunset that stopped you mid-step. A quiet moment with someone you love. Be honest. What did your hand do first? It reached for your phone. Almost automatically, that's the trap. Because the moment you decide to share something, you stop living it. You start managing it. You're no longer looking at the view. You're hunting for the angle. Not what feels right, what looks right. You scan the horizon through a lens. You adjust your body, your expression, your timing. And then it continues. 10 minutes choosing a filter that makes the sky look more real than it ever was. 20 more writing a caption that sounds deep but not too deep. Casual, effortless, carefully constructed. By the time you press share, the sun is already gone, and the feeling you had, gone with it. You traded a living moment for a digital version of it, a square, a post, a piece of online property. Your life becomes content, and once something becomes content, it stops belonging to you. It becomes something for others to consume, to judge, to swipe past in half a second. Most of these quiet people didn't start out invisible. They weren't born immune to the internet. They used to post too. Every vacation, every coffee, every small update, just like everyone else, until something shifted, slowly. Then all at once, they noticed how tired they felt, how even on vacation, they were still working, not for a boss, for an audience, an unpaid job as the main character of their own feed, smiling for people who barely noticed. And one day it landed heavy, like a truth you can't unsee. You were experiencing your own life through glass, through a screen, waiting for that tiny hit every time a red heart appeared, a small rush, a brief approval, then emptiness again. Likes are junk food for the soul. They spike you, then they drain you. And these people, they simply stopped. They chose not to be lab rats in a massive social experiment. They stopped asking whether a moment was postable. They stopped measuring life by how well it performed. They traded the applause of strangers for something quieter, something steadier, the feeling of being fully present, of living moments that disappear when they end. Moments that leave no trace except inside them. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. There's a quiet weight that comes with being online, one most people never name. Psychologists call it self-presentational pressure. But in real life, it just feels like never leaving the stage. Even when you're alone, even in your own backyard, there's that small voice somewhere behind your thoughts, asking, is this moment post-worthy? You're not doing anything special. Yet part of you is already watching yourself, framing, evaluating, observing, like a film crew that never packs up, except the camera lives inside your head. Over time, that pressure settles in, not loud, not dramatic, just heavy, a background tension you carry everywhere. And here's the paradox. These platforms were built to bring us closer, to create community, but somehow, they often do the opposite. You can have 500 people seeing your photos, watching your life unfold, and still feel unseen. Because how many of them actually know how you're doing? Not the highlight version, the real one. When you stop posting, something interesting happens. The noise falls away. The algorithm goes quiet, and in that silence, clarity appears. You see who reaches out because they miss you, not because a notification reminded them. You begin to notice the difference between connection and performance, between relationships and transactions, between people and numbers. Likes stop looking like affection, they start looking like currency, and suddenly you understand how much of modern social life is just trading symbols of approval back and forth. Choosing the shadows was never about hating technology, and it's not about being antisocial. It's about choosing authenticity over performance, about realizing that some moments are too fragile to be handed over to an algorithm. There's something almost sacred in that. While the world keeps shouting for attention, they lower their voice. They begin listening inward, hearing their own thoughts again, without commentary, without judgment, without 1,000 opinions rushing in. They learn something simple. Privacy isn't loneliness. Silence isn't emptiness. Some of the richest conversations will never be recorded. Some of the purest joy will never be witnessed. And that doesn't make it smaller. It makes it real. Because once a moment is offered to the world for judgment, it stops belonging entirely to you. It becomes shared property, owned by comments, by critics, by the endless scroll. So they keep it messy, unfiltered, undocumented. Not because they're hiding, but because they've finally stopped performing. They're not disappearing from life. They're stepping back into it, fully, quietly, alive.